that was instrumental in getting public opinion to address the issues of the migrant farm workers, especially with regards to the issues used over the Bracero program. And so over the years, an awareness developed on the plight of the migrant farm workers, and it leads us to a very important personage, and that is Cesar Chavez, and the organization that was founded by him and Dolores Huerta, known as the United Farm Workers. Now, Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta are important because through their organizational struggle of the United Farm Workers, they exposed to the national public the use of the Bracero program to deny the civil rights of those present in the U.S. But it was Edward Morrow's harvest of shame that preconditioned the public debate. Now, Cesar Chavez is important because under his leadership, the guest worker program was exposed for what it truly means. It was a way to use international contract labor identified as guest worker programs to break union organizing activities. And again, all of this within the communist sphere. You know, whip up the frenzy and your rights are out the window. Deport Mexican union organizers, import immigrant strike breakers. Let's go to a remembrance of Chavez.
Cesar Estrada Chavez, an American civil rights activist and labor leader, was born in Yuma, Arizona on March 31, 1927. The Chavez family lost their Arizona homestead in the Great Depression, and in the late 1930s moved to Northern California.
Cesar and his family became migrant farm workers thrust into the industrialized agriculture of California.
Cesar dropped out of school after the 8th grade to help support his family by working in the fields.
Cesar joined the Navy right after World War II, and he saw places he never would have seen, so it did open his eyes up to the world very much.
After the Navy, Chavez returned to the fields and became a grassroots organizer for a Latino civil rights group. He then left the group and formed the National Farm Workers Association, now known as the United Farm Workers of America, with the goal of unionizing farm workers.
Cesar believed that the movement he founded had to be more than just a union that was solely concerned with improving wages, hours, and working conditions, although the UFW certainly did that. But it also needed to address the crippling dilemmas that farm workers face in the community after they came home from work.
Most people were poor. They didn't have access to good housing or health care or education.
Chavez was adamant that his new union follow a strict policy of using only nonviolent tactics as a means of negotiation. While the organization was still in its infancy, UFW embarked upon one of the most influential boycotts in U.S. history, the boycott of all California table grapes.
The grape boycott really took off in '68. Cesar had studied history. He knew that for 100 years, farm worker strikes were brutally crushed, and that the agricultural industry, which in California is one of the richest, most powerful industries in the state, controlled much of rural California. So what Cesar needed to do was take the fight from the fields, where the odds were stacked against the farm workers, and move it to the cities, where the farm workers at least had a chance.
Over the next few years, led by Cesar Chavez, the farm workers would boycott, protest, march, and fast their way to a collective bargaining agreement, which guaranteed field workers, among other things, increased pay and the right to unionize.
He was responsible for a lot of the labor codes that we see today, the protections, the benefits, but the basic right to organize and affiliate.
As the head of the United Farm Workers of America, labor rights was not the only cause championed by Chavez.
Cesar's commitment to social justice went far beyond the farm workers. In the 1960s, he was a strong and vocal opponent of the Vietnam War. In the 1970s, Cesar was an early and vocal supporter of gay rights. Also not a popular position, especially at that time, among his own constituency.
Cesar Chavez died in his sleep on April 23, 1993. He was survived by his wife Helen, their 8 children, and 31 grandchildren. In 1994, he was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Bill Clinton.
In 1975, there was a reporter with a national news magazine following Caesar around for several days, rallies, marches, picket lines. And in an interview, she asked him what accounts for all the affection and respect that farm workers show you in public. And Caesar paused for a moment, and then he smiled his easy smile, and he said, "The feeling is mutual."
Okay, so, and again, connecting labor organizing to immigration has always been a contentious issue. And the United Farm Workers and Cesar Chavez was no different, because it continues to this day. But especially as we witness immigrants protesting for their rights these last few years, they have encouraged organized labor to reclaim May Day as an international day of solidarity. But what Edward Morrow in the 1950s and what Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez in the 1950s and into the 1960s were able to do was connect the urban communities to the plight of the farm worker throughout the United States and specifically here in California. So in the next presentation, we will be dealing with the civil rights movement.